But we probably shouldn't have shown that, before I started. There is no greater hero in my life than Andy Horner.
We need to know that.
We're going to talk a whole lot about him on Saturday, so we call it Lest We Forget, but tonight's a very special night. It's one that I think those of you who've been here for me a long time, you understand, and you'll get it. But what we owe the rest of you, we owe you the truth about the founding principles of this great company. We owe you the truth of why we're in business and who we are and what we believe. We've got to make sure in all integrity that you understand that. It doesn't mean that, of course, that you have to believe what we believe, because we build it on these basically powerful biblical principles that my dad just talked about. What it means is that you just got to know it. And tonight, our job and our role is to tell you time to make nobody. He didn't take time to know he didn't have any worth. He gave you all the worth and the value. So Premier is going to teach you anything. It's going to teach you that God has a child in you, that he cares. And tonight, the second part of that is that he's done an amazing, amazing work in community science. I have actually been around since 1985. But the last almost 12 years, I have been in the office, the home office. When Dad, early 80s, they decided they needed, about 85, they figured they better get somebody to come behind them. Most people start a little sooner. So about 85 or so, 83, 84, I came around, and I had to be convinced, not that Premier wasn't a great company, I had to be convinced that these powerful biblical principles and the belief and the trust and the foundation that Premier has been built on is truly of God and truly his company. We have that great museum. If you've been there in the home office, we didn't build that museum until after my mother passed away. That was in 2010. She died, and we wanted to have some way to honor them, to remember them. They were the founders of our company. And so as we started to put the plans together, I went to Dad and said, okay, Dad, we got this statue that we gave him a few years ago. And I said, we're going to put that right in the front of the museum. And Dad said, no. I said, yeah, we have to. People need to understand who the founders are, where they came from, what they believed. Why did they do this at 60 years of age? And he said, no, we can't do that. I said, why not? Because this is not some kind of monument to Andy and Joan Horner. I said, well, no, but, I wasn't going to change his mind. What changed his mind was just one thing. This is the principle. This is the realization at that moment that as funny as he is, as proud as he is, as much as he enjoys being in front of you and on the stage and being the center of attention, in his heart, he was probably the most humble of men. And he would not allow us to put that entire museum together until he said, you have to put above our statue, to God be the glory. To God be the glory. Which the only reason he would do that is because he knew who built Premier. There wasn't a whole lot of you strong, hardworking people. It wasn't Andy and Joan's personality and character. It was God himself. And I tell you what, it's taken me a few years, and I truly believe that. And tonight, you're going to see why I believe it. And you're going to understand, you're going to know, just like I do, what God has done. I ran into this verse, and I thought of Premier. It's on 1 Corinthians 3:6. It says, I planted a seed, Apollos watered it, but God has been making it grow. I was reading that, and that can mean a lot of things to a lot of different situations, but I thought immediately of Premier. I planted a seed. I think the watering has taken a lot of shapes and forms, and I'm going to be talking about that later. But ultimately, what I know and you know is true. God has to give the increase. God gives the victory. But it has to start somewhere. And so, I want you to see, in this short little video, how that seed was planted. Seed come from. You listen. Andy Warner.
But I totally got to the point where I got so fed up, and I told God, I'm finished, I'm through with this. And I have what you call a horizontal relationship with the Christians who have, they want to be everything that everybody else wants them to be. That is, horizontally, I was more concerned about what people thought of me, wanted the pastor, my friends, everybody to know how great I was. Not that I'd ever admit that, but basically that's what it was. And that nearly destroyed me. So I took a year, once again, fed up with God, and I'm tired of it. I started walking around, and then I started reading by myself. We went over to North Carolina, and I spent time with Sarah, and she lives in the Garden of Eden over there, just beautiful, just in the mountain, and Mitchell and all that. And I spent a lot of time walking through those hills by the week, and then I started studying, and then I learned something about it. My relationship being horizontal, all my focus was on what do you think about me? What do others think about me? Then I learned about a vertical relationship, and that is a relationship with the Lord, okay? And what it is God in Galatians says, I would like to work through you, but because I'm doing so much for you, I can't. Now this is going to impact me later on when I decide to do Premier. This has a big impact. That's when we went to the mission field and spent 3 months with Sarah in Bolivia. And I had got a desire there that I'd love to be able to support these missions. And out of that came a trip to Argentina, and I got to see a ministry there, which actually was from Word of Life, which came out of my Racine visit. The greatest thing out of Racine was Don Flacco got me to Word of Life, which got me into missions. He took 10 years to do it. But that I never would have met them if I'd never been to Word of Life, possibly. Maybe God would have done another way.
So you saw. You heard his heart. Because you're tired of something to do, missions. And he had a great friend. You've been down to the theological, I believe his name's Dave Wurtson. Dave Wurtson has been a pastor for I don't know how many years. But he's not just been a pastor in our area. He's been a friend of my father and mother and his wife, Mary. And through that relationship and that exposure to each other, Dave helped Dad formulate really powerfully what would become the birth of Premier Designs. Dad didn't know. He just knew he wanted to be assisting and serving and giving to missions of some sort. So Dave, who has since become the quote chaplain to Premier all these years, has been our official chaplain. We've asked Dave if he would come just share an excerpt from his book that he helped Dad to write, A Chance by Design. So please, Mr. Dave Wurtson.
In August of 1985, Andy went with me on a mission trip. We were flying across the Atlantic to communist Poland. We sat next to each other on the flight, plenty of time for Andy to keep me spellbound with his life story. We had been friends since 1971, when Mary and I came to Dallas to attend seminary. Andy and Joan asked us to babysit not their kids, but their house. But the long flight all the way to Poland gave Andy an opportunity to tell the story beginning. He took me from Belfast, across the Atlantic to Canada, down to Boston, eventually across the country to Austin, and then finally to Dallas. When we landed in Warsaw, he was only halfway through the story.
Oh, man.
After a couple of weeks of ministry where Andy made the Polish kids laugh, cry, and most importantly, he challenged them to connect permanently with Jesus. We said goodbye to our new friends in the Warsaw airport, and Andy settled right back into his seat and kept right on going with the story. He picked up the narrative right where we left off. He told me how he ended up at Home Interiors and how he and Joan helped Mary Crowley build one of the greatest direct sales companies of this country. But by 1985, and that summer trip to Poland, Andy was tired. He was discouraged. He was in transition. Home interiors no longer provided the challenge that Andy needed and the fulfillment that he was looking for. Joan and Andy had stepped away from home interiors about a year earlier, a move that gave them time to go to Bolivia and visit their missionary daughter, Sarah. You can imagine Andy in a Bolivian village. He connected immediately with the Bolivians. He saw how Jake, his son-in-law, and Sarah's camping ministry was the perfect vehicle for them to be able to reach people for Jesus. What was holding them back? Finally, it was handicapping their efforts. Then Bruce Peterson, who's here with us tonight, who worked for my dad at Word of Life way up in Stern Lake, he invited Andy and Joan to come even farther south down to see Joe Jordan's ministry in Argentina, right there in Buenos Aires. When they arrived in Monte, which is on the outskirts of Buenos Aires, the central location for Life, Argentina, Andy and Joan were ushered in to an auditorium with hundreds of young people from every Spanish-speaking country in South America. He saw them being challenged to reach all of South America for Jesus. Andy and Joan actually went and sat in their classrooms. They watched them studying the Bible. They saw them at camps, and they saw the camps filled to capacity. They even saw evangelistic Argentinian teams, the Colombian teams, the Chilean teams. They would go out into the public high school. They could actually do programs in the public high school. This ignited a flame. It ignited a passion in both Andy and Joan. As we moved closer to the United States, coming down through Greenland and down across the East Coast, coming toward New York City, Andy got to this part of the story. And he told me about Argentina and Bolivia and the need for more financial support. There was a fire. There was a light in Andy's eyes again. Several mission organizations were already trying to get Andy to join their board. They wanted him to serve on their board. But Andy was in his early 60s, and I got news for you, he was nowhere near ready to sit around a boardroom table. Andy had finished his story, and it was my turn to get some input. Andy, it's obvious you're passionate about coming up with ways to support this ministry, not only in South America, but also right here in Poland that we just saw the last couple of weeks. So as you head home to Texas, what gives you passion? What gives you fire as you move towards the future? Andy smiled as only Andy could smile. And said, Dave, it's moms. It's moms who don't want to work 50 and 60 hours a week, sitting in an office while someone else takes care of their kids. I want to provide them. I want to provide them with a tool. I want to give them a tool so they can go out only 1 or 2 nights a week, and they can make enough money, the money they need, so that they can stay home with their kids during the day. That would be in the past. Dave, I'm concerned about pastors' wives. Those pastors' wives in small churches around the country who really need to be able to supplement their finances. They want to dream about being able to help their kids go to college, but it's impossible. They want to be able to think about maybe putting something away for retirement. And he said, I want to come up with a tool that will let those women be able to do that. Then he looked down. It's some of my friends, even some pastors' wives, have just gone through divorce. And for the first time, they're alone. And all the finances are dependent upon them. Dave, I want to come up with a way for those ladies, those women, to pay their bills, to be able to make it on their own. That great big jet started to put down its landing gear, and we began to slow down for the final descent into JFK. Transitions. They're dangerous, they're tough, and they're challenging. They're especially tough when you're beginning your 60s. And you've already had careers. Think of it. You've already had careers that span corporate America, manufacturing, sales, human resources. Think of an area in business. And my friend Andy had not only received world-class training, but Andy has been there. So I said, Andy, after listening to your entire story, all the way across the Atlantic to the east, and all the way back to the west, I'm hearing your passion for the need for funds. Funds to reach the world with the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm also hearing your heart. I'm hearing your heart for women needing to be able to stay at home and to be able to take care of their kids. I think the Lord wants you to put it all together. Put it all together. We landed in New York. I was meeting my family there while Andy flew on to Dallas. An entrepreneur for Jesus hit my mind. And Andy, the Lord wants to put it together. Why don't you be an entrepreneur for Jesus? Entrepreneur for Jesus. Sounds like a good idea. But Andy wasn't quite ready yet. Thank you.
3 times in my life, God has really burned something into my heart. I've never seen an angel. I've never had a bright light. I've never walked on water. Okay? I just gone to bed and gone to sleep and wake up in the middle of the night and just be pondering and sense something so dramatic where you carry on the conversation and I said to God, I'm not going to do this. I can't do this because quite often the direct sales would always come out. You could do this. No, I'm not doing this. I can't. And it was that night in bed when he said, and this is just as sure as I'm sitting here, burned into my heart. Andy, he said, I've been waiting 40 years for you to tell me you can't. Now let me do it. You see, I was successful at Xerox, I was successful at Johnson Wax, had a great time. Everything I ever did, I was doing it, but I was doing it for Andy. So I said that night, okay. And we got up the next day, we started.
You're starting to see the picture of how what I think is a really very serious company with a very serious purpose. You see how this company was begun by 60-year-olds who were listening to the advice of their tremendous prayer partners and also hearing what Dad would say from God. So Premier's been blessed, and that seed was planted in my dad's heart and my mom's. And as a result, we started to see the growth of the company. As a result, we started to see what I'm saying in 1 Corinthians, the watering started to happen. Apollos watered it. And let me tell you what I think some of the most powerful waterers in this company. It's not our top field. It's not our EDs. I think some of the top watering crew are what we're calling our prayer partners. You see? I've been hanging around for a few years now. I think one of the greatest lessons that I have learned is that as I age, as I get a little older, I have learned to believe that there's a tremendous power in praying. For the longest time, you're aggressive and you're working and you're younger and you're getting after it and you're doing this and you say, okay, God, here's my plans. Let's go. Come on, you come with me. Bless my plans. And I wasn't ready for that. But that's our prayer partners. We'll talk about them in a second. But what I'm telling you is prayer has become such a vital, important part of what I believe has been the, quote, success of Premier, the watering and the growing of this great company. We have, over the years, Dr. Dave Worthington was one of the original prayer partners with my father. We have since grown it to over 164 partners, living in 21 different states and 4 different countries. I'm telling you that I told them today at lunch that there is no Premier without them. I even went as bold to say is, I think you're more important than our field. I think you're more important than our home office. I think at my age now, I believe in the power that the praying men and women bring to Premier. Yeah. Again, one of the things I want you to understand is you listen to me tonight, you listen to us, you don't have to necessarily believe it or understand it, but you need to understand this is where we're coming from, and this is the company that you're involved in. This is the company that matters, that thinks that you matter to us and you matter definitely to the Lord. I would love the prayer partners. Right now we have about 43 of them, 44 here. They are attending the rally this time. I would like all of them, if they're sitting together, where are you, right here? I want you to stand up, and I want you all to understand how powerful and important that is. They pray for you 365 days a year. When they pray for the success of this business, when they understand the ups and the downs, the tipping point, and then the track, where we're going, and how we're now coming into this new era, we think is going to be a growing era that's going to come with the power of these prayers that everybody puts on our behalf. That's true. God somehow responds to that and listens to it. I don't have to understand it all, but I believe it. So they're part of the watering crew. They're part of the group that has brought Premier for the last 33 years, the wonderful blessings that it has. Now, the other part of this I want you to know about is really the most, and I'm going to share a little bit more after this next video or two, but I want you to know, prayer partners, the foundation of the company. Joe and Andy are strong, but they prayed. They had tremendous people who were sitting in these rows here who helped them water and bring and grow a company. But the purpose of that was exactly what Dave was sharing with us. Their driven motivation wasn't necessarily to get rich. It was to serve and to give and then to share. And the result of the sharing, you have seen it for years. But there are missionaries, there are partners in missions. We have, I'm going to have to tell you later, but I want you to know these mission partners of whom are sitting right here. I don't know how many we have yet. I'm going to share with that in a little bit. So don't stand up yet, guys, because I'm going to get a little more detail here in a minute. But before we do that, before we move to that really beautiful time with our mission partners, I want to introduce you one of them who we've had a very strong relationship with. One is, her name's allowed us to do through your efforts is to support a ministry that Awanas has done in the women's correctional penitentiary around the country called Hannah's Gift. It's a beautiful ministry that Becky's going to share with you right now. Becky Neeson.
For neither death nor life, angels or rulers, wardens or prison, nor anything in your past or anything in your future is able to separate you from the love of God. You know, Joan Horner believed this. And she believed that people with terrible pasts could be turned into good people, that they could change. She believed that her God could do anything. And I want to say thank you today to Premier. And I don't just mean Tim and Peggy and their family, but I mean you also, the jewelers and the employees of Premier. When you're out there working hard and having fun, loving women, you're supporting the women in the Hannah's Gift program. Ladies like my friends Tina and Cindy that live in prison. I'll never forget the first time that I stepped into a prison. I stepped into the Sally Port and a large metal door clanged behind me. It sent a very cold shiver up my spine. And as they unlocked the door in front of me, I froze and I could not move. And after a few moments, the warden was with me put his hand on my shoulder, and he said to me, "You can go in now, ma'am." As I stepped across that gate, I started to walk down the sidewalk to the chapel. And as I walked down it, there were concrete benches, and I saw women sitting there, and they had heavy shoulders, they had sad eyes, and I thought to myself, this is no place for a woman. But as I got to the chapel, I met other women. I met Tina and Cindy, and I saw in them a beautiful transformation that God was doing in their lives. They had peace and they had joy on their faces. The Lord had changed their life. And both of those women were doing life sentences. Because of your investment in the Hannah's Gift program, the Lord has graciously allowed them to do life in a way that they would have never imagined. I'd like for you to meet Tina and Cindy in a short video.
It's horrible that I had to come to prison to have a relationship with God. And I never thought, God would be in prison, but He is. I've seen the work that He's done in me and in other people. I started becoming a praying mother. I learned how to be a praying mother, and when Hannah's Gift came, I just thought it was so cool. I wanted to teach it like the first year. I wanted to be a facilitator. It was something that touched my heart. My heart goes out to incarcerated mothers. My heart goes out to these girls coming in that have just been separated from their children. And through Hannah, you can learn that it doesn't matter the distance that you have, the best thing you can give your child is prayer. And that's the one thing that I didn't give them when I was home. And right now I can't give them money, I can't buy them things, I can't provide their clothes, I can't babysit my grandchildren, but I can pray. I think being in prison really helped me in a way. I think He's prepared my table, my place here in prison. I have life. And I think as long as He uses me, I can do life.
I came here with no hope at all. I had 2 life sentences. I expected anybody who had a sentence like this to be just broken down, hopeless, bitter. And I met this lady named Mary Riley. She passed away last year. She was 73, and I always see her on the bench, and she was just so humble, and she always had a smile. And I asked her one day, I said, I know that you're a lifer, and I need to ask you a question. And she said, what? And I said, how come you look like you're at peace? What makes you smile? And she looked at me and she said, Jesus. Once I surrendered my life to Him, I have hope. I am so okay, and I have seen that I have affected more people positively here than I ever did before I came here. In fact, I probably helped to destroy some lives. And so, if just the fact that my children changed, then I'm good. And that shows me that there's hope. There is hope for salvation. There is hope for freedom. I have freedom. Freedom is right here. My freedom is here. I'm more free today than I've ever been.
Wow.
I can do life. That just takes my breath away every time I see it. I can do life. Wow. Cindy said she's affected more people positively in prison than she ever did on the outside. Nothing can separate those ladies from the love of God. And you guys helped make that happen through your support. Those ladies are learning to become the women that God always intended them to be. They're learning to become the mothers and the wives that God always intended them to be. But you know, this is not just Lifeline's story. This is Premier's story too. This is your story. We're just there doing the work, but you guys are supporting us. It's your story. Beverly is another woman that I met in a women's prison. And she told me recently that she is happy that she got a long prison sentence. She said spending a long time in prison gave her time to understand God's word and to know how much he loves her. She said, not only that, but she said it was just Mother's Day. She said, I had the best Mother's Day I've ever had in my life. I got to talk to my children on the telephone. She said, I got to tell them for the first time, sincerely, how sorry I was for the pain that I had caused in their life. She's a new member to the Hannah's Give program. But at Awana Lifeline, that is what we do. We are there to help incarcerated men and women break the generational cycle of crime that runs in their families. And we do that so that their kids can do life at home in a family with God. We are all broken, just at different levels. But God is in the business of restoring lives and restoring families. When I meet women like Tina and Cindy and Beverly, and I see the sincere change of heart that they have, I see the transformation that God is doing in their lives, that is when I know that what we're doing is all worth it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of Premier.
Starting to see the seed was planted by the parents. The prayer partners and so many of you started to water things a little bit. And part of the results of that, the growth, part of the giving, the victories that God gave is you just saw on the screen there. You saw what you're part of. You saw just one ministry you're part of. In just a few minutes, I'm going to share with you the vastness of what God has done through you and Premier. So the word is, what can we do? When can we do it? Well, I want you to know, we have a great song that's going to tell you we can do it right now. We can keep doing it.
How we ever get so far down? How we ever gonna turn around? So I turn my eyes to heaven. I thought, God, why don't you do something? Well, I just couldn't bear the thought of people living in poverty, children sold into slavery. The thought disgusted me, so I turned my fist to heaven. I said, God, why don't you do something? He said, I did. I created you. If not us, then who? If not me and you, right now. Oh, it's time to do talking about how we are God's hands and feet when it's easier to say than to be. Live like angels of apathy, tell ourselves it's alright, somebody else is gonna do something. No. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm sick and tired of life with no desire. I don't wanna play, I wanna fire. I wanna be the one who stands up and says, I'm gonna do something. If not us, then who? If not me and you, right now, it's time to do something. If not now, then when will we see an end to all this pain? Oh, it's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. Oh, we are the salt of the earth. We are a city of night shining on. Shine, shine. But we're never gonna change the world by standing still. No, we won't stand still. No, we won't stand still. No, we won't stand still. No. Without us, then who? If not me and you, right now. Oh, it's time for us to do something. If not now, then when will we see an end to all this pain? No, it's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. It's time for us to do something. It's time for us to do something.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, amen. I get to be a part of Primer Designs. I was down there watching my granddad on the video, which I too forgot that never showed up. And my dad said he had a great man in front of him that he got to watch live out his life and lead him. And I've had two great men in my life. They're two entrepreneurs. As you guys know, this is not about the honors at all, but without me being able to acknowledge the fact that I've had that type of leadership in my life, I would not be here with you today. And my dad talked about these prayer partners right here and the power of prayer. When I hear him talk about those things, I have a personal testimony of prayer. One of our prayer partners, one of my best friends, his name is John Pendergrass. He's not here tonight, he was here earlier, he'll be back tomorrow, but there was a time in my life about 3 years ago when I had struggled with some crap in my life I was dealing with. And he came to me and he said one thing, he says, bro, you are forgiven always. He says, you know what? And I said, what? And he goes, God, cast your sins as far as the east is to the west. Amen. Yeah. And when he said that, I don't know how to tell you, but when the next morning I woke up, I had like a 45-minute session down on my hands and my knees, just literally thanking God for the grace and the forgiveness he's given me. And it's unbelievable to see. It's funny growing up in Premier, I actually thought other companies had prayer partners.
Yeah.
Really did. And so we have 160 people that are praying for this company day in and day out. It's something that I'm extremely thankful for. And then we have these ministries that are part of Premier. But let me tell you something. Growing up and here working at Premier now, it's really hard for me to answer the question when people ask me what I do for a living. It's actually one of the hardest questions for me to answer.
Yeah.
I always tell them that I work for a jewelry company, that I've been marketing for a jewelry company. And the very next question is how do you go from rodeo to jewelry? And I'm always like, you know, it's a long story. And you want to sit here and talk, we got to get a flight to across overseas or something. Don't worry, we'll fly back and I'll finish it on the second flight. So. And I'm so thankful for my granddad giving me that Barney right there. But it's true, it's really hard for me to even answer that. Because you see these ministries flash across and everybody's sitting here in front of us, and this community, this culture, these leaders, people that I've literally been raised around. And I can't tell you how incredible it is for me. 29 years old, on a stage in front of 3,000 people that I know are here, that are fully supportive of what we're doing. People that are diehard. People that are diehard, that are saying things like, hey, I want to be a part of your family. I'm like, well, I am your family. I thought we were family. We've been doing this for so long. And this is what I'm thankful for, is I'm thankful for friendship. I'm thankful for leadership. I'm thankful for entrepreneurs. I'm thankful for the business that we're in. I'm thankful for these ministries that we get to be a part of because of what you're doing. And when I hear that song earlier, you guys hear about it's time for us to do something, I was actually sitting backstage about an hour ago and I was thinking about it and I copied and pasted some lyrics into my phone. And it says this, it says, right now it's time for us to do something. If not now, then when? Will we see an end to all this pain? It's not enough to do nothing. It's time for us to do something. And he goes on to say, but I'm sick and tired of life with no desire. I don't want a flame, I want a fire. Because I want to be the one who stands up and says, I'm going to do something. Yep. And in Premier Designs, we have so much of an opportunity to do something. You guys are seeing everything that you're a part of all over the world. My grandparents started a company to support one ministry, and now it's unbelievable where it's at because of the work that you guys have done and what we've seen throughout Premier Designs, what God's hand can do in this. Now, here's what I want you guys to think about. I want to think about what you guys can do now. Like, we're the ones that we're here. I'm in a jewelry company, from playing with horses and dirt in a jewelry company to do something. In the same way, we have jewelers out there that are doing something here. And there's a video that you guys are going to see. There's a ministry called Lifesong that Premier's getting to be a part of. But there's some jewelers that worked with Lifesong. So check this video out.
And this is my wife, Melissa. We have 6 kids.
We had talked about adoption through dating and through early marriage, not really exploring it much, knowing how much it cost, just expensive was all we knew.
I remember sitting in church and it was the last week of a series talking about money. The pastor on stage just kind of gave a challenge to people. He said, if there is something that God has laid on your heart that you think about a lot, but you're pushing it off because of money, I just challenge you to take that step of faith. We walked out and we got in our car, and before we even started it, I just looked over at Melissa, and I said, are you ready? And she said, yep, let's do it.
We had the privilege to go to the orphanage to get him, which doesn't always happen in China specifically.
We're sitting in the orphanage and we're holding Bo, and we're in awe of the moment. We have our son finally in the midst of all of that joy. We're watching just hundreds of kids file past us. God didn't just, whisper to us, he shouted that just like you'll be back. You'll be back and you're going to help another one of these kids out.
We were 6 months home, and we had already had Gertie's file. We knew that this time we would go back for a little girl. We were partnered with both our local church and Premier Designs for our grant through Lifesong. It was just really amazing to watch. This company I've worked alongside of for 15 years, that I love passionately for their love for people, also develop a love for children and families. To watch our extended Premier family across the United States come up alongside of us because of Premier, because of our matching grant with Lifesong, to help bring her home was such an incredible gift and so incredibly humbling.
People jumped on board. They loved being able to help them, being able to put the money forth to make that match, to double that money down to get these kids home. The help that they provided was life-changing for people in February.
If we would have said yes, we wouldn't have filled 2 extra beds that we didn't even know we could fit in this house. We would miss out on so much joy and really just watching God's faithful provision through all of it.
It's always fun to see jewelers partner with some ministries like that. Dave and Melissa Tubergen. I know Melissa's here. Melissa, where are you at? Somewhere? By the way, it's their 15-year anniversary, which is awesome today. Yeah, congrats. So that's a story of some jewelers that are doing something with a ministry inside of Premier Designs. There's so much action that happens inside of our community here. There's a lot of stories inside of Premier, more than just that one, but also stories inside individually with you guys or else conversations, over the dinner table, whatever that may be, at a home show, or anything. Inside of rally, convention, whatever you guys are doing, there's so much that happens. We love hearing about it. There's another story that you guys are going to watch right here from one of our very own, an amazing lady. I absolutely adore this lady. She's so funny if you haven't got a chance to meet her. Her name is Jean Ann Knox. So check out her story.
I remember going to my very first rally, and Joanne, my jewelry mom, she tried to explain it, just like I tried to explain rally to my people, and she kept saying, you just gotta experience it. And of course, that's what has to happen. You just have to experience it. When Andy's up on stage and he's talking about God didn't make a nobody, I mean that hits home, because for me, I wasn't raised in a church family. It was literally they would come by and ring the doorbell on Saturday to get us to come to church, and we would hide because we were afraid. We were afraid of church. We didn't understand it. We weren't raised in that environment, and so to hear someone talk in a corporate environment or a corporate setting, so to speak, about God and about Christ and about that God didn't take time to make a nobody. I mean, I hadn't heard that before. I hadn't heard that in my home life. I didn't hear that in really anywhere. But there's something attractive about that. And I knew I wanted to know more. And each year, it felt like I got to know a little bit more. Just watching Joan and Andy and hearing when Joan would through her devotionals and through Gyms with Joan, she would say things that were scriptural. And I don't even think I owned a Bible at the time. And to hear how that impacted her life, it's a magnet, it's attractive. And I didn't understand it, but I knew I wanted it. And I had that same feeling with my college roommate. We prayed before we went off to college, and I didn't understand it, but I liked it, and I knew I wanted that. I didn't know how to get it. And then Andy would talk about if you don't know Christ, you don't know what we're talking about. Get with somebody, and I can't tell you who I got with, but I just at some point I knew that I wanted what they had, and I wanted Christ. And I said, I don't know how to become a Christian. And she said, well, you just have to ask for Christ to come into your life. And I said, well, I don't know if I can do that publicly. And I was like, I don't know if I can walk down in front of church and say it to the whole church. She goes, no, you just did it. You just told me. You did it. And then we prayed about it. And it was something I knew that I wanted, and I wanted to be a part of it. And that all started with Joan and Andy. It all started with Premier. It started with that rally, and it started with that song, Something Beautiful. If somebody told me 25 years ago that I would pray for somebody at a show, or that I would pray for someone over the phone, a hostess, a customer, I don't know that I would have really believed that. And because of Premier and what I've learned through Premier and my walk with Christ through Premier, I'm able to do that. I'm able to enrich people's lives that I would have never fathomed. I know for the first 25 years, it's been an incredible, incredible journey, an incredible ride. Wouldn't change anything. And I'm looking forward to the next 25, God willing. Premier saved me. I really honestly can't imagine it not being in my life in some form or fashion. It's been a great journey.
You're starting to see what Premier's about. Gina Knox, she's what a barrel of Latin. She was part of our New York group. That's December. Gina Ann, Janice, Irene, Kylie, and who else? Natalie. They're all here, I think. And we had a wonderful time in New York City. Drew carrying all their stuff. That was the group.
Yeah.
But you've seen how Gina Knox was a result of the seed planted in my parents' heart, as Dave shared with us. And you've seen how what you do is undergirded by the power of the prayers of so many hundreds of people over 33 years, not just today, but from day one. It's been undergirded by prayers. You've seen now about how you as Jewers do something. Listen, as they joined with a partner in life song, as they joined to save children, these beautiful children, and adopt them. There's so many more things you're involved in. But there's really, and I'm going to share a little more about that, but I want you to know this. We have a serious purpose. And the purpose is we're just plain and straight about it. There is a relationship that you can have. There is a relationship you can have with God. Gina and I found it. I found it as an 8-year-old boy. Dad sat in my bed, confronted me on my birthday on a Sunday night and said, "Son, you need this." And he threw up a verse, Revelation 3:20 says, "Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man come in and open the door, I'll be with him." I took that knock on my heart and I opened the door and I said, "Yes, I need you, Christ, in the center." And from that moment on, my life was forever, eternally changed. And this simple verse, John 3:16, I love it. I don't know if Tommy had it, but it's for God so loved the whole world. He did what he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him, what? You do not perish, but you have eternal life. I believe you don't just die and it's over. I believe there's eternity. I believe that I know that there's eternity. It's just a matter of where you spend it. I hope tonight, when we're done, that you have made sure where you stand on your eternity. It is a matter that only you and God can decide. And you're going to hear Peggy Sue in a little bit, but here's something that just really to me, it's just overwhelming to know what you're involved in. And I'm going to show you right now. There's so much going on in your company for 30 years. The seed was planted. Hundreds of thousands of Jewers have come through here. But as a result of those seeds, I've got a lot of notes because there's just a lot of stuff. As a result of those seeds that are being planted, I want you to know over the years, your company, through you, has served over 895 different ministries. They have served 895, 64 different countries have been served by those ministries. Let me just give you a small example. This is a little New Testament. Premier Designs has bought over 10,000 of these little New Testaments. When I was a child at Baylor High School, we were born, and they gave us a little light New Testament, white or pink. We have supplied to local hospitals over 10,000 of these. They give to new parents who require them. That's a simple ministry that you're involved in. And let me tell you what else you're involved in. 895. Let me just share some really serious numbers that we've never shared before. But we have broken down these ministries over the years into several different categories. And when I look at them, it doesn't break my heart, but it moves me to great thankfulness. Your company planted a seed, didn't have a name. The entrepreneur for Jesus, God took that heart, watered it with you and the prayer partners, and here's what he did when he grew it. The first category we're just calling churches. And over the years, churches alone, you have made it possible to donate over $44 million, $639,000, just to churches. The first category. Churches, buildings, ministries within the churches. You've also made it possible in the areas of colleges and high schools and Christian schools and scholarships. Over $29 million have been given to schools in all of those categories. I don't understand this. A third category, we're not done. A third category, we call it the camping ministries around the world, and supports for camps, $18,970,000. This is what Premier is doing through you. Now let me tell you what, this is after you get your money. This is after the home office gets paid. This is totally after all of our bills are paid for. This is what God gives you that you're part of. You have churches, schools, camps. Then we moved into a category we're calling research, which is over $10 million. Part of the research there was one of the research projects you supported that allowed Burl Cain to take his and go to Bible college and seminary ministry around this country. You did a book, this 5-year study at Baylor University by very prestigious study that you funded, that now is allowing him to get into the doorways of all the federal prisons in almost 30 states. He is doing something powerful because of Premier. Let me tell you the next thing. It's a medical facility. Medical giving, which are buildings, hospitals, $8,213,000. It's going on and on. I want you to see what you're a part of. It's not just a little ministry here and there. The next one is we're calling the homeless, abuse, prison ministry, $6,696,000. Can you imagine what you're a part of? These are homes for abused women. These are homes for addicts. These are prison ministries that we've been a part of that you guys have seen. It's just adding up. And we have just a category where we just got one-time gifts. It's $2,567,000. I don't know about you, but when you total all that up, it totals up to $120,917,000. This is what the planted seed that God watered has done. It's worth every hour, every minute you spend on Premier Leaders. Look what you're a part of. None of this happens. We have hundreds of things that you have supported. I wanted you to see a little glimpse of that tonight. You have to know that Premier is not finished. God himself I know this. Yeah, we've hit the tipping point. Yeah, we're kind of redoing. We have some great new ideas and great leadership. We have what we need to move forward. Only if we continue to pray. Only if we continue to know the source of the victory in the game. That's from the Bible. I believe it. I've never been more convinced. The older I get, I don't get more cynical. I don't. I've been through all that. That was college, David Souter. I am now, I'm a believer. I'm 100% believer. I'm kind of in the catbird seat. I get to see all of that. And I get to see all of this and all of this and all of this and all of this. I kind of see the whole thing. And in the mornings when I'm sitting over at the manufacturing, I go to that little office first because it's quiet. You get over the designs, it's like, ooh, crazy. Always running around, doing stuff. Manufacturing, I closed my door. And not too long ago, I've gone through all this. And I was just contemplating. There's a quiet time, just kind of me and God. You ever been there, you shut the door, there's really nothing going on, it's really quiet. I don't do that very often, but when I do, it's really kind of interesting because I actually feel something, I actually see something, I actually hear. You gotta try it, you know? Get out of the buzz, get into quiet. So I'm sitting there, got my feet up, I put them on my little, what do you call it, trash shredder, put my feet, that's my footrest, I'm leaning back, and I'm just thinking, I'm reading this kind of Devo, you call it, the devotional, Devo for short. I'm reading this Devo. And on this Devo, there's this amazing video. And it caught me just right. It caught me in a moment of intense appreciation. It caught me in a moment of contemplation about Premier. So I think back to my dad, mom, his prayer partners, his hundreds of ministries, and I think about the field who make it happen. I want them to know what they're part of. I want you to understand that premiers know a small thing. God has taken that seed and grown it beyond any of my imagination. So I'm sitting there, and I click on this video, and in that moment, I watch this. I want you to see it because it's the old Chick-fil-A video where the coolest guys I've ever seen on the video, they stand up and they do this. I want you to watch this. Every praise is to our God. Every word of worship with one accord. Every praise is to our God. Sing hallelujah to our God. Glory hallelujah is to our God. Every praise to our God. just going through a lot of this. I was sung by really cool guys. You know what else it reminded me of? It reminded me of Premier is in the world too. Just like those guys were at a restaurant singing, they weren't in church. They weren't all at some seminar somewhere. They were out there being real about who they were. That's what Premier is. We're going to be real about who we are. And when that happens, God just has a way of doing his thing. Plant the seeds. We have these prayer warriors watering and praying for us. We have the tremendous field leaders who love God, love you, and are going to take you to new heights. And then we have a great God who deserves our every praise. We ask you to. It is so special to be part of a company like this. I don't deserve to be here. Drew doesn't deserve to be here. He'll be taking on. I mean, he's good. I'm just really proud of him. But what I'm most proud of is that God is a God of second chances. And my gosh, we all need second, thirds, or fourths. I want you to know the best second chance I ever got was this Peggy Sue. A lot of people look at her and then they look at me and say, "What are you thinking, Peggy?" I think one of my friends even asked if she was drunk or something. They all say this. They all say, "Gosh, well, Tim, you married an angel. Good for you." And my dad, every time he calls, he says, "How's that little angel doing?" And she is. And so God has got a second chance, but what you got to do is you got to go and get the first chance with him. So please, he's kind of puts you on the spot. He says, you got to make a choice. If you're sitting there and you know there's a choice to be made, please take his. Please listen to what he shared with you. Right. That's the eternity you want. Now I want to listen next week. Take a seat. Because she's going to share with you a wonderful story of what God's done for her in her life. So welcome Miss Peggy Sue.
You have also spoken right to my heart when I read your thoughtful emails or even a personal note from you. And Joan, we love you for that. Love her personal notes. I miss her. Mm-hmm. Whether you're visiting at one of our Haven of Hope retreats, rallies, or on a cruise, or even some quality time in New York City, your kind and generous encouragement has kept me inspired in sharing my life journey with you. Help others discover real hope, real joy, and real love. I pray that once again as I speak to you and I'm out of my comfort zone, that you will hear how God has been faithful to me. It took me a while to discover that he was the answer to all I ever needed. If there is just one person here tonight that needs real hope, if that's you, then this is for you. Joan and Andy taught us here at Premier that building a successful life meant putting God first, followed by family, and then career. I pray that my story of faith and family will encourage you to do just that. I was born and raised in a neighborhood of Dallas known as Oak Cliff, which was kind of like a small town. I lived in the same house my entire childhood with my sister, mom, and dad. I loved my life, and I loved my family. My mom was beautiful, smart, loving, and always there for us. I always looked up to my sister, and we are still extremely close today. And I'm grateful that she and my two nieces are here with me tonight. The four of us have such an incredible bond. I thought what I thought was a special relationship with my dad, who sadly was an alcoholic. Despite his alcoholism and often being mysteriously absent from our family, I still remember feeling that I was Daddy's little girl. Our parents spoiled us with gifts and other material things to the point that I felt like we had everything we could ever possibly want. I was involved in all the typical activities, cheerleading and hanging out with friends, dancing. And there I am with my dad. This is a hard one for me. That was the last picture I ever had with us together. Shortly after that, when I was 17, my whole world suddenly changed. That was the day my father decided just to leave a note on the refrigerator and walk out the door. How could all this be possible? I was so hurt and confused. My hopes for a happy and family seemed to end with that note left on the refrigerator. I felt numb and empty all at the same time. As a 17-year-old girl, my new reality was a shattered family, a devastated mother, and a wounded me. You see, back then, divorce was not common. I felt embarrassed and terribly alone as I longed for that family to be together again. Added to all that, my self-image was attacked by a high school cheerleader sponsor. She actually said to me, "You're the tallest and fattest girl up there." I tried my best to be brave, and she continued to tear me down for the next 2 years.
Oh my goodness.
But my heart was hurt. It was so broken that my life began to spin out of control. I developed an eating disorder that would plague my life for the next 10 years. I kept hoping that my dad would come home, would one day return, but I only saw him 3 other times in my life. There are so many milestones, meaningful milestones that he missed sharing, that he just missed. He missed out, including my high school and college graduations, Father's Day every year, and most importantly, I had no one to walk me down the aisle on my wedding day. I would have loved for him to have been part of my boys' lives, Grant and Craig, to be, to see their first baby steps, to hear their first words, and just being their grandfather. But my dad really chose to stay away and just missed all those memories. My mom and my sister and we each tried to move on as best we could. After Dad left, he left us only with $121 in the bank. But Mom was amazing. I was still able to graduate from college with a home economics degree with an emphasis in early childhood, thinking I would teach. However, shortly after marrying my first husband, my sister and I, Susan, we opened up a baby boutique called Shelby Stuff, named after one of my nieces here tonight. It quickly became a very successful business, and it just allowed us to spend time with our children They went to work with us every day. Sounds familiar, right? We had so much fun. I love designing children's nurseries. It was a very happy and creative way to make a living. Happy marriage, successful small business, and being a mom to 2 wonderful boys. That was my plan. Until I was faced with the reality that my eating disorder was controlling my life. By the time I was 28, it was threatening to destroy me, both physically and emotionally. My doctor wanted to put me in the hospital, but that scared me to death. I didn't know where to turn, but I did know this. I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was desperate to talk to somebody, to someone. So I got in the car, and I drove straight to a very good friend of mine named Cindy. She shared with me what Jesus Christ has done for her. And for the first time, I realized that a relationship with Jesus would change my life forever. So at age 28, I prayed to accept Christ as my Savior, realizing that the hope and joy that I had longed for my entire life could only come from Him. Sometimes I think back to my childhood home where this large Bible sat on a shelf collecting dust. I don't ever remember it being opened. We didn't know then what I'm certain of today, that under that dusty cover was the amazing truth of God's promises for my life. The joy of knowing that He loves me and He gave His life for me so that I could be forgiven and free to have eternal life. The truth was there all the time, like a hidden treasure, right there in my living room. Wow. I wanted my boys to know what I had found in my relationship with Christ. I started taking them to church regularly, and I began serving as best I could and just learn more about my faith. I thought I'd be married to my first husband for the rest of my life. However, after 23 years, my marriage ended with a life-changing divorce. I had not forgotten that, I had not forgotten the deep pain of when my dad abandoned me. And now I was confronted with the end of my own marriage. Divorce not only affected me, but it affected my boys. But I also had to find a different career that could help support the 3 of us. So that was devastating. I did not want to leave the business that I loved. I was afraid. Because once again, all I knew had changed. Now I can look back and see the Lord has been faithful to me all along, holding me, protecting me, and preparing me for what He had planned for my life. He knew I was going to meet the Horners, a meeting that changed the direction of my life. My oldest son, Grant, knew Tim and his family very well. And when I became a single mom, needing a better paying job, Grant asked him if Joan and Andy had anything available. They invited me to come in for an interview. I was so nervous. It had been many years since I had interviewed for a job. Well, little did I know that these 2 godly people would become such an important part of my life. Instead of it being an interview, it was just being all business. It was like a counseling session. They're amazing. Joan and Andy really took the time to get to know me. They listened to me. They prayed with me. They shared scripture with me. And yes, can you believe it? They actually hired me.
No.
Of course, I never dreamed that Joan and Andy would one day become my mother and father-in-law. I also had no idea how God would use both of them to mentor me, especially Joan. My first year working for Premier was very challenging. It was such a difficult season of change and growth. The corporate world was much different than running my small business with my sister. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around the fact that Joan and Andy would hire me in the first place. I can look back now and see how faithful the Lord was. I just never felt like I was good enough, or I just was prepared enough to really work with those amazing people. But the Lord was so good. He walked patiently with me to help me overcome those fears and insecurities. Joan and Andy would later transfer me from the home office to Premier Manufacturing, which Tim founded in 1995. He and I became good friends, and eventually we started dating. Now that I think about it, maybe Joan has something to do with that. The Horners in my eyes are all such wonderful, godly people that I've questioned many times, how do I fit in? I was so overwhelmed, but Joan and Andy were great. The best mentors anyone could ever have. While all my insecurities made me want to run, their consistent love compelled me to stay. It was the most beautiful demonstration of God's love that I have ever experienced or known. The year before our precious Joan passed away, she started a personal one-on-one Bible study with me. Wow. It was such a sweet and special time. We prayed together and we studied together. And after she was gone, Andy made sure I was connected with another women's Bible study. Well, this September, Tim and I will have been married for 11 years. God was so faithful to give me such a loving and godly husband. And it's amazing how our family has grown. Tim and I have a beautiful blended family who enjoys any occasion to get together with our 6 wonderful kids and 6 adorable grandchildren. Chase, Haven, Gage, Ford, Reagan, Smith, and guess what? There's another one on the way. I love being their lolly, and Tim is their pop. My mom was so thankful when God gave me a godly and loving husband in Tim. Mom really loved him, and he loved her right back, helping me care for her until God called her home. I can look back now and see God's faithfulness through every season of my life. God always has a loving plan for me, to give me a hope and a future. And I know He has one for you. I want to tell you something significant that has occurred over in our family in the last 3 years. A few months ago, we lost my sister's husband, Arthur Bjork, who was to me more like an older, wiser brother that I never had. It was a great honor for Arthur to be a prayer partner for Premier. I have watched my sister care for her husband, and they have faced a trial that they didn't know how to fight. They chose to trust God even when cancer left Arthur without a stomach the last 2.5 years of his life. He couldn't eat except for a tasteless feeding tube. Talk about a major life change. As crazy as all that sounds, and imagine, Arthur continued to be faithful and thankful. He trusted God, knowing he would never walk through this fire alone. He never complained, but he did the best to assure everyone with his bold message on his wristband, God's got this. I love this picture from last rally. Arthur was very, very weak, but he got out of his wheelchair and danced to Mandisa. I'm an overcomer. It was awesome. His faith deeply impacted my life. In spite of all his physical sufferings, he counted it all joy with a genuine hope he had in Christ. In the first chapter of James, it says, "Count it all joy whenever you face trials of many kinds, knowing that testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything." Count it all joy was also the way Joan would always sign her personal notes. At first I thought it was just a wonderful way to sign her notes, until later, when I discovered the biblical meaning behind that phrase. You see, before I found Christ, my life was just a series of circumstances. Some happy, some sad. I didn't know that I could count it all joy, because I didn't know the source of joy was Jesus. I have been burned so many times by the fires I've walked through alone. The hurt and embarrassment of my dad leaving our family, the very hurtful and demeaning voice of a cheer sponsor that led to a destructive eating disorder, and the failure of my first marriage. I was desperate and needed help. I know many of you here tonight have experienced all kinds of trials. You might feel like you're in the middle of one right now. Believe me, I know how you feel. It was there in the fire at the end of my own strength that Jesus saved me. And finally, because I know him, I can count it all joy and truly thank him for the process.
On the mountain, I thought that I was brave. I barely needed faith, 'cause I felt strong enough. In the valley, all I knew had changed, and I was so afraid. But this is where you found me, and now these ashes are a holy place. You hold me here and teach my heart to say, thank you for your fire, thank you for the night, thank you for the trial that I don't know how to fight. Thank you that you lead me to the end of my own strength. This is where you meet me and carry me again. Thank you for the fire. Thank you for the fire. In the fire, fear and faith collide, and all my questions why are answered by your love. In the fire, all my deepest pain is healed with endless grace. However long it takes, only you could bring me to this place, where my heart can finally learn to say, thank you for your fire,
Thank you for the fire. Many of us, as Peggy shared, have our own fires that we have been through. And if it were not for the grace of God and the love of God that Peggy discovered, and the grace of God and the love of God that many of us have discovered, we would have never survived those fires, but by God's grace and love we have. But thank you for the fire. There are some here who can't say that. You can't say thank you for the fire because you've not experienced the grace of God and not accepted the love of God. And from what we heard from Peggy, we can relate to the pain and the loss, although our stories may be different. We're all either have been, are, or will be through those very fires. And so the question for us tonight is, will we also be able to relate with what Peggy shared and say, I can be thankful for the fire, not because I enjoyed it, and I want to repeat it, but because a loving God gave me grace. I don't have to extinguish the fire. I don't have to change my life. I just have to accept His love and grace. And with that hope, we can all say, thank you for fire. We're going to close, and we're going to close with a word of prayer. And when I say amen, we're all going to go. Some are going to go to the marketplace because it's open till 10. And you might want to go to some of those missionaries you haven't visited yet and say thank you, praise God, and get to know them a little bit more after what you heard tonight. And some of you are, well, 2 of you are going to go to bed, but the others somewhere. Because again, at 8:30 in the morning, the doors open, we get started at 9 o'clock, so we've got a busy day tomorrow. But there's some others that need to do something different. You need to do what Deacon Knox did in the little video we saw earlier. You just need to turn to somebody and say, I'm going through fire now, and I need that love and I need that grace. And if that person that you turn to, just like Jean Ann had done with a friend, if she can't help you, the 2 of you turn to the next person. And you say, we're going through fire. We need love and we need grace. And I will guarantee you, because we've got prayer partners praying, and we've got people just been pouring over this night, God's going to put you with someone who's going to say, let's talk. And like Jean Ann said, you don't need to go forward. You don't need to raise a hand. You don't need to do anything except just go to someone and say, help me find that love and grace. And as Tim shared earlier tonight, that's our prayer, that we all leave tonight being able to say, thank you for the fire. Why don't we stand and let's pray as we go. Our gracious